today's video, I'm going to show you several different side control style positions, and I'll give you a couple details on them and kind of show you how you can use them. I'm going to go based off my experience and how I personally use them, and then again, you can kind of take those and maybe use them for some ideas in your own training, your own role, in your own competitions and everything else. So hope you enjoy the video. As always, this is my lovely assistant, Mr. Adam Wilson. Let's get to the video. So the first one is the head and hip position. You might have a different name for this, but typically what this looks like is we will have a grip underneath of the head, and I typically like to, in a lot of these positions, I like to have a middle finger or a finger here right into his latching into his armpit, and I pull the elbow towards me to give me some shoulder pressure into the face, right? Typically we call this the shoulder adjusters. Now for the hip part of it, I'm going to be placing this hand by the hip. Now in no gi, you literally just place it here. In the gi, I'll typically grab a grip on the side of the hip here. Let's turn this way, Adam, so you can see. Typically, I'll literally grab a grip here. Back when I first started competing, one of the cues that my coach would say is literally grab the butt when we would pass, because a lot of times white belts forget to like settle position, and they'll try to do this, and that leg comes right back in. So by settling in position and grabbing that butt right here, if he tries to bring his leg in, really difficult. Now this particular position, I don't really use this for more than a kind of a pin in the beginning, right? So once I pass and I need to establish position, I use it for that purpose. And one of the cool things about it is that because if you look at like Adam's body, if you load up the center line of someone's body here, if he just moves, just rock side to side, your body just moves, right? But by sinking down nice and low, if he moves, I don't move at all, really. And I'm not in front of him to give a strong push. Like if you think about if you've ever tried to mount someone, when you're centered up on them, they can give you a strong push. Because I'm off to the side, I've got good shoulder pressure here, and I've got this grip on the hips, there's not a strong push, and I'll just get down really low, pin, that sort of thing. Now, the thing that may start to happen sometimes is they may turn out this direction here, and you can start to work underneath and begin to take the back. But as far as being like a strong submission platform, it's usually not. Typically use that for a pin, hold, get the points or establish position, and then work my way up. The next one, which is super common, is your basic head and arm, right? So we have head and arm control and the knee against the hip. Again, just like before, I like to have this grip in here. I don't really hold too much like this because again, I mean, this is fine to pin for a second, but I like to get here with that shoulder pressure because now I'm putting shoulder pressure into him. That makes it harder for him to turn towards me, and now I can move this hand around. Now, with my hand gone, I connect my knee over on this side to the hip, and now we're here. Because again, I want to always have something connected to this person's hip, whether it's my hand, the knee, the hip. You'll start to see this as we go through all these other positions. This is a little bit better of a platform to start submissions from, and basically you can transition to any of the other side controls from this, right? So from here, you know, when I was a white belt, I used to attack key locks all day long from here. You can start to set up kimuras from here. And you even have some neck attacks like paper cutters and everything else to set up your submissions. You could also, if you decide to, begin to go up and work for your mount position. So it's pretty versatile, plenty of attacks. Now the next one we'll take a look at is what's called Kesa Gatame. Now what we call Kesa Gatame in Jiu-Jitsu is different than what Kesa Gatame is called in Judo. And typically speaking, I think if I'm saying this correctly, if we got any judo players, you can correct me. But what we do in jiu-jitsu is actually consider, I think it's Kazuri, Kesa Gatame, or broken Kesa Gatame. So basically, just so you guys understand, Kesa Gatame is here, where we're going for a headlock. Not a bad position, you know, it's a great pin, and there's some people that can really like wrench the neck, and there's even a few little arm locks and stuff like that from here. But the problem is that against a really good jiu-jitsu guy, eventually they tend to find a way to get to your back. Because again, we're not pinning. In judo, like you can win a match by pinning the person. In jiu-jitsu, we have to submit them. So typically speaking, we go to this underarm position here, okay? So kind of ideal positioning for us is we pull that tricep up. Notice that my hip is now connected to his hip. That's my block against that leg from regarding. I'm underneath the shoulder, grabbing the tricep, tucking his hand in here. and I'm going to lean down. This is a big problem most people have, is they lean back in this position. It's very easy for them to just kick up and throw the person. You want your chest to face wherever you have pressure, or wherever you want the pressure. So if I'm up here, my pressure is going up this way. I want my pressure to be down on him, okay? Now this position, lots of attacks right out of the gate. We have some step over arm bars here. There's a straight arm lock here. And it's also really good. I tend to end up using this position as a transition. Like if he starts to frame against my hip here, I'll grab the tricep. So because he starts to push a little bit, boom, I'll start to transition in there. And then we can come up to a position like this where we isolate the arms, right? Where we've got double knees, wide knees against the body here. And we've isolated this arm really far away from him. And so that's typically what I use it from. But there's a lot of submission options from there. You just want to make sure when you're using the position you're here. Good pin, good submission options. Now, the last couple ones I'm going to show here, and these are some of my favorites, is the reverse side control. So reverse side control is going to look something like this, where basically we can do it with the arm or without the arm, okay? Without the arm, I'll save what my favorite is for last. So without the arm, you have a position kind of like this where we get the elbow up in the armpit. We're really high up on the chest, so we're away from the power of the person's hips. My knee, come this way. My knee is now the connection to the hip, right? So there's always a connection to the hip in these positions. Really simple positions to like switch to side, to mount. I can advance my position. As far as submissions go, you know, there's not a, for me at least, there's not a lot of stuff going on here with the arms or the neck or anything like that. So typically what I'll do if I want to set up a submission from this position, I'll usually begin to transition to a north-south and like attack the arm or something like that. But I find this is one of my favorite positions to set up my mount attack from. So, you know, if I'm in a competition and need some points, or if I just want to go to a mount, I'll start to use this one where I step over and go to the position from there. Now, with the arm, this is my favorite side control position to begin setting up Kimuras. And Kimuras are my favorite position. My favorite submission rather. I love Kimuras. And so from here, I scoop up the arm, keep my elbow off the mat, and all of my weight's gonna be on Adam, and I trap this arm. By getting the arm trapped, his range of motion is pretty limited. And so, I mean, you've got a lot of easy straight arm locks and Kimura setups from this position. And so that's my favorite. So let's kind of just run through these real quick for you. And again, think about with your own game, depending on what kind of submission you want to use or what kind of situation you're in, you can kind of tailor the position that you need for the situation. So first one, we're in that head and the hip, locking, okay, holding down position, grabbing the butt or just placing the hand by the hip. From here, we've got head and arm, where we're nice and tight. Again, I like to put the shoulder pressure, grabbing the meat of the shoulder there. This way, this hand is free to attack, but I still maintain good shoulder pressure. Typically speaking, if he starts to touch and frame against my hip here, I'll start to switch off to that Kesa Gatame, keeping my body really tight. There's lots of attacks that I can set up here, but it's a great transition position to any of the side controls. I could go back to head and arm, I could pull up, and advance to this wide knee position. I can even switch to the reverse position if I want to, which again now allows me to attack the arms. If he was to pull that arm out, boom, I can get up high on the chest, step over to mount, advance my position. And again, the whole time, I'm keeping a lot of pressure on the face, a lot of pressure on the chest in most of the positions, and I always have a solid connection to the hip. I know that we have a lot of white belts and blue belts and things like that that watch the channel. One of the biggest problems that I see people have with their side control is they don't maintain that connection strong enough. What ends up happening is it's like if we're moving around, if I even give a little space against a good guard player, that knee comes right back in. But if you're moving around in position here and always maintaining that knee connection, it's not to say that they can't regain their guard, but they're not going to be able to do it with simply sliding their knee back into place. And so those are several side control positions for you that you can use. In case you guys might have some haters, I've got this really crispy belt for my friend Tony, which it seems to want to come undone a lot, so I'll sit it right there. But those are some side control positions you can use. Hopefully they're useful to you. Again, if you guys have any questions about them, throw them down below in the comments. But again, just think about your own game. Think about what you're using. Think about the positions you're trying to execute, the submissions you're trying to execute from side control, or even what position you want to move to from side control, and then you can throw these into it. Now, just sort of a big disclaimer is this is not all of the side control positions or variations. This is like a tiny sliver, but it's some of the most basic ones that I could show you guys that I figured might be useful to some of you guys in your first couple of years, first few years of training. So anyway, hope this is helpful to you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'm finished. Adam?